welcome to day 5 of the Hunger Games week, and we are officially 2 days away from Hunger Games being released. One day if you are cool and awesome and everything I aspire to be by going to see it tomorrow. But that means that today I am here to review Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, the final book in the Hunger Games series. And unlike the movie franchise, this is just one book, not Mockingjay Part 1 and Mockingjay Part 2, but you already know that. So let's get right into all things I think about Mockingjay before the final movie comes out. First off, you have to realize that Mockingjay, I was so excited to read this because I was right off Catching Fire, which I absolutely love Catching Fire. It's one of my all-time favorite books, and it was so great. So I was like, yes, let's read Mockingjay. It's gonna kick some butt, and everything's gonna be amazing, and I can't wait, and I'm absolutely, like, ready for it. And then I read it. And, yeah, let me just say, really disappointed. Don't get me wrong, I still think it was a good book. I just think it had so much more potential than what ended up happening. And even I can say, like, reading it the first time because I was expecting it to be so good, I was kind of like, well, maybe I thought it was worse because I was expecting it to be so much better, you know? But I have gone back and read it a couple other times, and each time I read it, my rating does not change for it. I always just feel like it needs something more. It needs like a little oomph. Honestly, if you read this book, she probably spends at least half of it in the hospital, in and out in the mental ward, and it's not to say that's necessarily a bad thing because it's totally understandable for someone in Katniss's position. I mean, she's only 17 years old. She's had to fight for her life, her whole life basically, but then she had to go to the Hunger Games twice. She got the boy who was basically her emotional support and her rock and everything. He was taken away from her, and now he's being manipulated. She has Gale, who she's not still as close to because now he's turning into this whole other guy she never thought she knew, and she just has all this stuff going on. So I mean, it makes sense to me, and I actually do give Suzanne Collins a lot of credit for going that route, for not just having Katniss like roll with everything, because it definitely made her feel more relatable and it made the story feel more real. Because if I was in that situation, and I read it when I was about like a couple years younger than Katniss, I think I would definitely have the same problems where like everything, I wouldn't even want to like get up in the morning. I would just lie there like catatonic and not want to do anything after all I've been through, and yet she still manages to become this face of the rebellion and accept this position that's kind of been thrust on her. Like, she didn't really do anything purposely to become the Mockingjay, but now she's become this beacon of hope for everyone, and instead of just giving up and staying in the corner, she does try and fight and she tries to win, and I do give her credit for that. I just think the book, it had too many expectations for it, as many final books do, and I feel like unfortunately a lot of those expectations weren't met. One of my biggest faults of the book is just I felt like a lot of the deaths we had were meaningless. Like, I have no problem when you have character deaths, but they actually mean something and they're emotional, they're not just used as a plot device. And to me, I feel like almost all the deaths in Mockingjay are used as a plot device. Like, I feel like there was no reason for... Can I say it? Or is it a spoiler? I don't know if I should say it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. So if you haven't read Mockingjay, it's a spoiler, okay? There is no reason for Finnick to die there. Okay, yep, I hope I didn't ruin that for anyone. Oh my gosh. I just feel like that was really pointless, and especially since we had just met him in one book before, and even that, it wasn't like the whole book we met him for, just a small portion of it. To kill him, I felt like was just, it was like trying to go for emotional, and it did make people cry, I know, but to me, it's just like, it shouldn't have been there. Like, it just seemed like too heavy on top of everything else. And then Prim, I feel like she shouldn't have died, but had she not, like, the book wouldn't have had that last, like, emotional punch to it. I can get, like, why Suzanne Collins decided to kill Prim off, but to me, it's just something that will always make me angry, because to me, it makes the entire series meaningless. Like, Katniss has been doing this all, not for herself, but to keep her sister safe and to give her sister a better life, and then to have Prim end up dying at the end, I just feel like it's so ridiculous. And everything else that kind of spun off of Prim's death was so ridiculous. Like, Katniss's mother leaving her, that was horrific, because I feel like the series was kind of trying to redeem Katniss's mother in our eyes and for her to like leave her daughter, who is suffering from PTSD, who just lost her sister, to leave her daughter alone to fend for herself, I think is so unjustified and so cruel of her mother. And then we also have Gale, who, the poor thing, he may or may not have been the one to come up with the idea that killed Prim, and now he has to live with that his whole life, and he decides to leave too. And it's just weird to me where everyone should be kind of celebrating that they finally put an end to this regime and kind of working on strengthening each other and building each other back up, especially Katniss and people who have been broken down so much by the system. I feel like they should have become closer as a group, and instead the end kind of had them scattered. So I can't really say it's a happy ending, and I can't say it's the ending I want just for those reasons, because I'm okay with like not everyone getting a happy ending, but at the same time I want it to feel realistic and to feel like we're getting something out of this story that we've put 3 books into, and to have that be the end, I just felt like there wasn't really that resolution that I wanted. And as for the story itself, I mean, the beginning of the book was not really my style, like when it was a lot of just plotting and stuff like that. But this was the first book we didn't have a Hunger Games per se, so instead of the Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins put in the booby traps around the Capitol when they were trying to storm it, and I feel like while that was cool, I think it's going to look better on screen, like visually, because to me, it just felt like one thing after another, like it was never ending. And my favorite / least favorite conversation in this book is actually one that takes place when they are hiding out in the Capitol, and it is when Katniss is pretending to be asleep and Gale and Peeta are talking about her, which somehow, for some reason, this is so much like that scene in New Moon where Jacob and Edward are talking, and I hate it because I've always hated this love triangle, and to have it be so similar to what Twilight is like, it's like gag me, like gross. But the cool thing is where Bella kind of just like passively listens to this conversation, is like, who will I end up with? Katniss is kind of like stunned to hear Gale say that she's going to pick the person she can't survive without, because she's stunned not only that Gale says it, but that Peeta doesn't refute it, because, and she's completely justified in it, because in the back of her mind she's kind of like, I've survived basically all my life without you guys. Like, yes, Gale helps me out, yes, Peeta gave me that bread, but I'm the person that pushed myself through this. I'm the person that has done all this and gotten through these games and is still here and still fighting. And she's like, at this moment, it's clear I could survive perfectly fine without either one of y'all. And I'm like, thank you so much, because I feel like that was a moment where Suzanne Collins was kind of maybe trying to say, like, don't focus too much on this love triangle. Like, people want to make teams out of it, but I feel like in that moment she was kind of saying, like, Katniss doesn't need either of them to survive. Like, it's ultimately going to be who she chooses, because who brings out the better side of her and who she wants to be with, not who she thinks she should be with. So I just feel like it was a really strong, empowering moment for Katniss to be like, I don't need either of y'all douchebags, so stop saying I do. But overall, I just have to say the book was not the most enjoyable for me, and even reading it now, like I said, it's still not my favorite, and as an ending, it's one of the most disappointing series endings I have ever read. It would be the most disappointing if I hadn't read Allegiant after, well, read Allegiant, I read the last page. But anyway, I have to give the book 3 out of 5 stars for all those reasons that I listed. It wasn't what I wanted it to be, and that's really depressing, and I'm really hoping that the final movie can make it a little more interesting and maybe take away a certain person's death who I really don't want to die. But if you have any thoughts about Mockingjay, if you liked it or not, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below, and also make sure to check back tomorrow to see my review of Mockingjay Part 1 before Mockingjay Part 2 comes out. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and want to see more, and also subscribe to my channel down below to be told when I make all sorts of new videos, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!